So let's go over how much you can make driving rideshare in 2025. Hey everyone, my name is Chris and welcome to the RideShare Guy. So you might have clicked on this video because you want to know how much can you actually earn driving for rideshare in 2025. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about right now. So first off, it's all going to depend on how you look at how you're getting paid. Most of the time, as an independent contractor, you're getting paid per job, which means pay per ride completed. So if you are going out taking rides, if you give 30 rides, you get paid for those 30 rides, and that's how much you're going to make. The average person, though, is probably going to look at it a little bit different. They're going to look at it as average per hour. So if I'm out driving 4 hours a day for the weekend or something like that, how much am I looking at? If I'm driving 40 hours as a full-time gig, what am I looking at? And then there's also the other way to look at it, and this is how the companies like Uber and Lyft look at it. They consider it active time. Because you're an independent contractor, you could be on multiple platforms at the same time. So you could be on Uber and Lyft and Doordash and other companies all at the same time. And whenever you get a ride request or a food delivery request or a last mile delivery request, then you can accept that, go offline on the others. And so they measure it by the time that you accept a trip or an order, a delivery, whatever it might be, to the time that you actually complete it. So in the avenue of rideshare, it's the time that you receive a ride request, you go pick up that person, and then you drop them off. That's called periods 2 and 3 in the rideshare world. And that is how Uber and Lyft figure it out. So they're always going to be a little bit higher than reality because they're eliminating period 1, which is the time that you're sitting in the car waiting for a ride request to come in. And that could be who knows how long. Now, to start off, on average, when it comes to the average ride, and this is average only, and it's going to depend on several factors, like your area, where you're driving, when you're driving, a lot of factors. But what I've seen and what I've seen across the country, the average ride that comes in is between $7 and $10. So that's about how much you're going to make per ride on average. Obviously, there's minimums. So that means if it's a short ride and you're only making $3, $4 for that particular ride, and there's other ones that you could make $200 for a lengthy ride. And it just depends on the ride. But like I say, when you actually average it out, it's probably going to be between $7 and $10 per ride. Once you start doing this and you get a feel for it and you know your area, keep track of everything that you're doing and then come up with the average. That way you can kind of project how much you're going to make based on a ride. And then let's go to the companies per hour as the active hour. Because again, this is going to be higher than the per hour because it's eliminating about 33%, let's say, of period 1. And that is where you're sitting and waiting for a ride. So these companies have said, oh, you've made 39 per active hour or 32 per active hour, but they never really say what it is per hour. And I got to give them credit for that only because you could be on multiple platforms at the same time. So you could be driving for Uber and Lyft. And if you're not driving for Uber and Lyft, make sure you are. If you're just on one, sign up for the other because it's just going to open you up to more possibilities to make more money, which means your utilization rate is actually going to be better in the long run. So make sure you're signed up on both. But with that said, 30 per active hour or so is not going to be realistic to the average person who's going to look at it per hour. Now let's talk about per hour because that's probably what you're figuring, what you're thinking, and what you are basing it mostly off of. Not per ride and definitely not per active time. Because let me tell you, when I turn my app on at 5 p.m. and I come back at 5 a.m., that's 12 hours of online time. But that doesn't mean that I worked 12 hours on Uber or 12 hours on Lyft. That just means that my online time has been 12 hours. So that's how we're going to look at it, is through online time, because that's probably how you're going to look at it. And the average that the Uber or Lyft driver that is driving on both platforms can make is probably going to be averaging between 20 and 24 an hour. And again, this is average. Certain areas of the country, you're definitely going to be lower. You're going to be probably around $18, maybe $20 an hour. And then there's other parts of the country where you might be hitting that 30 per online hour or more. And also it comes down to how you're driving, where you're driving, when you're driving, and a whole host of other factors. Where is it busy in your area? Are you taking advantage? Are you planning? Are you positioning yourself properly? are you having the patience to make sure that you're going to get the ride requests that are coming in that are going to be worth it for you or not? That's the 3 Ps. We talk about that a lot here on the channel. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. So again, yeah, you're going to probably be making 20 to 24 an average online hour for the most part. Clearly, it can change and it can shift depending on all of those factors that I talked about, plus more. But if you want to make sure that you are maximizing the amount of money that you're making per online hour, then make sure you check out our rideshare course called Maximum Ridesharing Profits, which is going to teach you the basics of Uber and Lyft and rideshare and what you should be doing, as well as making sure you stay tuned to our channel and checking out all of the great videos that are on here, because it's going to help you make more money in less time, which means your per hour online hour rate is going to go up. You might be hitting that $30, $40, $50 an hour if you're driving smart. And as I said, though, it is also based on area. So one of the things that is happening now is more and more states are beginning to put out minimum guarantees on the driving that you make. So California, New York, Massachusetts all have minimum guarantees on active hour. Then there is Minnesota and also Washington, which have a per time and per distance calculation that's based. Minnesota is a little different than Washington because Washington, you get that whole fare right at the time you complete the ride. And in Minnesota, you might get an upfront fare. And then if by the next 2 weeks, you may get a top off, depending on if the fares didn't equal what you should have made from time and distance models. So there's a lot of things there, and more states are looking at adding more minimum guarantees when it comes to driver earnings. So depending on your area, you could figure that out. But also, if you want to know what you're particularly making in your city versus all the other drivers in your city, there's a great app out there called Solo, and it's going to compare what the average earners are making in your area when they're driving and how much they're earning per hour. And you could see that exactly. So you know, are you making enough? Are you making the average? Or do you need to do a little bit better and kind of learn the area? Not only that, but Solo also has earnings guarantees as well built in. So if you're driving during a certain area or a certain time, they will give you the minimum guarantee if you don't make that. They will track your mileage and also expenses, so you can see how much you're making and how much your expenses are to kind of give you a better idea at the costs associated with driving. So check out the Solo app. Link's going to be in the description below. So now I want to know, what are you making per active hour or per online hour or per ride, however you calculate it? Put it down below in the comments, and also your city, and hopefully we'll see what drivers are making in those particular areas and what their averages are. And if you have the Solo app, why don't you send us screenshots of your particular earnings versus your city earnings, and we can see how you're doing. And also, if you have any other questions driving rideshare, let us know. Put them in the comments below, and we may make some new videos on those particular topics. If you have any other questions, make sure you check out Show Me the Money Club live Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, with my co-host Sergio and myself, where we go over a lot of the updates and things that are going on within rideshare and tell you exactly what you need to know, especially when these companies are making some changes, new additions, testing things out in certain markets, and all of that great stuff that you need to know in order to be a more profitable driver. All right, we'll see you next time.